Hello and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am Kashif Kamran, the AAA tutor. The AAA March 2024 exams is tomorrow, and this is a very crucial time for all the students appearing for the March 24 exams. There must be lots of questions in your mind, and you must be looking for the answers to those questions. So this is a Q&A session exclusively designed for all of you so that you can participate in it. And if you have any questions or any queries, you can raise them so I can answer them for your benefit. So go ahead and start raising questions, as many as you have, so that I can take them during the course of this session and answer as much as possible. Okay, there is the first question from Muhammad Hamza. He's asking, Sir, apart from materiality paragraph, will we get three max marks for giving materiality statement in each audit risk? Uh, Hamza, the materiality paragraph is 3 marks. Then when you start writing the audit risk or risk of material misstatement, each audit risk and each risk of material misstatement is worth 3 marks. Uh, if you comment on materiality in an audit risk question, that is, this is material or this is not material, then you're fetching the professional marks, right, for your judgment on whether it is material or it is not. But there are 3 technical marks for materiality, which you will get upfront. I hope you're clear on that, Muhammad Hamza. Okay, there is another question from Eswin asking, Sir, in is engagement quality control review and independent partner review the same? Yes, it is the same, but please ensure you use the terminology engagement quality reviewer in exam paper, not second partner or not independent partner. The better terminology to use in exam paper is engagement quality reviewer. Okay, there is another question from Umair. I have done with all past papers and learned by heart few articles. Okay, learning by heart, the articles have nothing to do with AAA, Umair. It's about concepts and it's about the application of that on the day of exam. Go through notes as well. What to do now? I think nothing to do now. It's just 24 hours away. You have your exam. So it's about relaxing. It's about mediating yourself. And it's about just revising the marking scheme or just going over the recent mock paper, just brushing over it. Otherwise than that, there is nothing much you can do at this point in time. Okay, there is another question from Noor Hazwani. Hi, sir. I would like to ask, will I lose professional marks if I write the number in short form? Example, $400 K. No, not at all. Not at all. This is the fine way you can write numbers because this is what accountants do normally. So that's perfectly fine. Okay, there is another question from Muhammad Hamza again. Thanks, and kindly mention the structure of ROM for 3 marks. That is identification of risk. There is no as such structure, but yes, you start first telling this is material. You comment on the materiality of the ROM you have picked up from the case study. Then you go ahead and you comment on the accounting treatment. You tell what is the standard accounting treatment, and then you tell what is wrong with the accounting treatment adopted by the management. So you try to identify the misstatement within the management accounting treatment. And then the more important thing is to tell what is understated and what is overstated. I hope you're clear on that, Muhammad Hamza. There is another question from Ibrahim Khan asking, how is the new article going to be tested? Ibrahim, I'm not very sure, but definitely there is a room for that being tested either in terms of the knowledge or in terms of some very important definitions which are given under the new article, like bifurcated materiality or double materiality, something like that. Even the ethical side given in the examiner article and the risk side given in the examiner article could be tested in a case specific scenario, or you could be asked to uh, write an answer about matters you should be considering in accepting an engagement for assurance on sustainability information. We know examiner is very fond of practice management questions. This time, it could be around sustainability information or assurance on sustainability information. So something like practice management or ethical dilemma, because an ethical dilemma have been covered very well by the examining team in this article. So that sort of things would come in. I hope you're clear on that, Ibrahim. Okay, the next question from Ahad Akram. Sir, if we identify three risks from the same paragraph, let's say dockyard damage, what's the max limit of marks? Five. From one scenario like dockyard damage, if there are more than one risk, so you write one risk, then you change the paragraph and you write the second risk under the same heading of dockyard damage. So the maximum number of marks you can get from one scenario is five. So don't write more than two risks per scenario. And this 5 marks is only once, right? You cannot say, okay, I'll go to another risk and I'll find two risks from the same scenario. No. Finding two risks from a same scenario can only be once in exam paper, and the maximum marks for that is 5. I hope you're clear on that, Ahad. Okay, there is another question from Ishika Sharma. So, when matters before accepting engagement and terms of engagement both are asked in a question, how do we write answers as points are very similar for both? Yes, I do agree that points are very similar because there are some differences. Because when you are accepting an engagement, you do look into ethical side as well, right? Or you do look into your professional competence as well. You look into your resources as well. But when you are agreeing the terms of engagement, you primarily focus on your fees. You primarily focus on your deadlines. You primarily focus on the assurance level, the type of report, or you focus on the management responsibility and auditor responsibility. I think these are more specific terms of engagement. But yes, when you're looking into the matters before accepting engagement, deadline can come there as well, fees can come there as well. But more importantly, the ethical issues, professional competence, and resources, or client integrity, or anything around management integrity can be more important factors around matters before accepting engagement. I hope you're clear on that, Ishika Sharma. There is another question from Muhammad Sharmil. Could you please explain which non-audit services are restricted for being provided to a listed client? See, primarily you can provide all non-audit services to a listed client, but bookkeeping service. Uh, if the listed company is your client, then providing the bookkeeping service, like preparing the financial statement, is a bit more riskier one, and you should refrain from it. But apart from that, you can provide any service to a listed company, provided you have a separate department which is engaged for it, or separate resources are engaged for it. And at the end of the day, there is a proper engagement quality control review being carried out for any assignment you're offering to a listed company. Okay, there is another question from Hetvi. So, what questions to practice for a new article? Hetvi, if you have been in my regular classes, I've recommended a question around Newman, which was from December 10 paper. And I even did that in my regular classes for the previous articles, which was published on assurance of sustainability information. So, December 10, Newman Company. That is a question which you can practice around the new article. Okay, there's another question from Omer. Is it compulsory to mention currency signs example dollar? Yes, it is. There is another question from Esfin. In order to pay for this extra work, the agreed audit fees will increase by 20%. This is wrong, right? The fees should be separate, right? Esfin, I'm not getting your question. If you can rephrase it and send me back, so I would be in a better position to answer exactly what you mean by this. Thank you. Okay. There is another question from Aruba. Is there a major difference in writing our answers when we are in completion stage? As I get confused, to what extent I can perform procedures? You can perform procedures at completion stage. Typically, all procedures you do. So nothing to worry about. Yes, when you are at a completion stage, you think more realistically about completion of things in time. You will be looking for a manager review. You will be looking for reporting implications. That sort of things becomes more visible. But when you're writing procedures at a completion stage, you are open to write any procedures, right? So nothing of a distinction there, Aruba. I hope you're clear on that. Okay, there is another question from Ishika. Got it. Thank you, sir. Fine. Another question from Sayed Ahmed Pasha. What kind of question we can expect from ISSA 5000? So that's like a hot topic. Everyone is running after that. That is a new article, Sayed Ahmed Pasha. I've just answered that at the beginning of my session today as well. Knowledge can come from it. A lot of knowledge stuff is there. So expect you have read the article very well. There is a big section on ethics. So it could be linked to ethics side as well. Matters in accepting the engagement for assurance on sustainability information, because examiner is very fond of practice management. So some sort of those questions can potentially pop in from the new article. Okay, there is another question from Noor Hazwani. Sir, for the conclusion for prioritization of ROM, and the question we also have question to evaluate business risk in conclusion. I give only one conclusion for ROM. Yes, mostly you give conclusion for ROM or audit risk. You don't give conclusion for business risk. So even if you're not giving conclusion for business risk, that's perfectly fine, Noor. Okay, there is another question from Alvin. I'm still confused on conclusion in question one. Number one, do you conclude after procedures? No, see, Alvin, suppose in the first part, you need to evaluate the business risk. You write the business risk and you're not giving any conclusion. Then in the B part, you have audit risk or ROM, and you need to evaluate and you need to prioritize the significant audit risk or ROM. So first, before you start the B part, you put the materiality paragraph, then you do the audit risk and ROM. Then, right after the B part, you put a conclusion as to how you have prioritized the significant risk. So, examiner is looking for a conclusion or a justification of your prioritization of the significant audit risk and ROM. C is about procedures, for example. D is about ethical issues. So, you're only putting conclusion right after the requirement, which is dealing with audit risk or ROM. You're not putting any other conclusion in the briefing note. I hope you're clear with that, Elvin. Okay, another question from Ahad. So please clarify the change of tone in quality management, both pre-issuance and post-issuance of audit report. See, um, if you are doing a quality management review prior to the issuance of the report, you still have a chance to rectify the mistakes you have done, or you still have a chance to overcome the issues which has been done by the audit team. So you can rectify them. You can uh, perform procedures. You can take actions to rectify them before you issue the audit report, or you can ask management for the extension of the deadline so that you can do more work. But when the audit report has been issued and you're performing the engagement quality management review, if any issue is identified, definitely that is where you are getting a lesson or a learning for the future. If there is any breach of policy or any in any area you have gathered insufficient evidence, so you are learning from them, and you're saying, okay, I'll not be repeating it next time, and I'll be adhering to the policies of the company, because normally the post issuance reviews are done for companies which are not important. So even if there are issues, that would not be much of a botheration for the audit firm. Okay, there's another question from Akbar. So can you please recall the 15% fee rule for which it is applicable? Yes, it's for the listed companies, right? That the uh, the the fees from a client should not exceed 15% of the total income of the firm for 2 consecutive years. If the fee from a client is exceeding 15% of the total income of the firm for 2 consecutive years, then it will give rise to a self-interest threat, and you need to reduce the dependency on the client. But for 1 year, if it is 15%, then that is fine. But for 1 year, it is 15%. For the second year, it is 15%. Then it will become a problem, and you have to take actions to reduce your dependency on the client. I hope you're clear with that, Akbar. Okay, Ishika, sir, the pre-mock has climate uh, risk related to issues. Ishika, because the pre-mock this time published by ACCA for March 24, they've just copy pasted the September 22 mock. So climate risk used to be a emerging issue in September 22. I have covered a video on climate risk on my YouTube channel in September 22. Now we are in March 24. So I don't foresee this as much important. But I will be posting that video again in my groups today after the session gets over. So anyone wants to watch that video to be on the safe side around climatical risk, because we know there is a sustainability assurance on sustainability information article, and considering a lot of focus on sustainability coming in AAA exams, a lot of articles coming around sustainability in AAA exams. Again, the climate risk could become important. Even though this is the September 22 mock, which is now published as March 24 mock. But I will still post that video in my March 24 WhatsApp group, so you can benefit from that video, or you can just search for that on my YouTube channel. I hope you're clear on that, Ishika. So at least in the last 24 hours, you can watch that video. Okay, Sayyid Ahmed Pasha Qadri in question 2 and question 3. Any specific tips? No, Sayyid Ahmed Pasha. It's just about time management. Try to do your best within the time. You have 47 minutes for question 2 and question 3 each. So try to read the requirements well. Try to ensure that whatever is being asked for is well connected to the case study, because more case specific you write is the success in the AAA paper. Okay, there is another question from Shakshi. Sir, what is the best strategy to start the paper? A or B? Definitely A, because you are very fresh at the start of the paper and you want to put that fresh energy, your fresh mind, your clean mind on the section A. I would never prefer students doing section B first and A after. So I would always say A first and B after. Okay, there is another question from Ibrahim Khan. So, what is the main difference between ISQM1 and 2? Ibrahim, I hope you've read both the articles, because ISQM1 is telling us more about the quality management at the overall firm level. It's telling us about the system of quality management for the whole firm, whether you're offering audit services or not audit services. But ISQM2 is specifically for the audit, specifically for how you approach the audit, and more about the leadership responsibilities towards the audit engagement. Okay, Aruba is saying thank you, sir. Clear, okay, you're welcome. Umer is saying how many professional marks an average or good student can obtain normally? An average student normally obtains somewhere between 7 to 8 professional marks out of 20, as per my understanding. And a good student do get into the double digit, somewhere between 12 to 14. I prefer students should aim for 14 to 15 professional marks, which are pretty easier. And I'll be doing a quick discussion on that shortly. Okay, there is a question from Sohaib. Uh, any difference in approaching audit risk or ROM are the same? They're definitely the same. Only when you're writing an audit risk answer, you might find a detection risk to write on. Otherwise than that, both are same. Okay, another question from Hetvi. So, can you share the latest list of marking scheme for different areas? Definitely, Hetvi, you are in my March 24 group. I'll be sharing that soon today. Or else, I think you can watch my December 22 webinar, which is on the YouTube channel. And it is the day four of the December 23 webinar. So, if you can watch the day 4 of the December 23 webinar, it covers all the latest marking schemes, and that's for all of you. Okay, a question from Priyanka. So, for going concern, can you please suggest what kind of questions can come in? You must have seen the past papers, Priyanka, for going concern. Questions asking you matters which may cast a doubt on the going concern status, just like the December 18 paper, question number 5. Um, the reporting implications for management has given a disclosure, has not given a disclosure, or evidence you would expect to find around the cash flow forecast or procedures around going concern? Because these are typical questions which have come in past papers, Priyanka. I hope you've seen that. Okay, a question from Noshin Raja. Sir, in EQR, it's mentioned that audit report date should not be before the date of the EQR. What means that? See, you need to perform the engagement quality review before signing the report. So uh, you cannot sign the audit report until the EQR is completed. That is very clear, right? So, and for listed companies, it's mandatory that the report of a listed company cannot be signed unless and until the EQR is finished. Yes, for non-listed companies, you can even do EQR after the report has been signed, which was used to be known as a cold review, not as a hot review. Okay, I hope you're clear on that, Noshin. A question from Emily. So, matters to consider in accepting engagement, the same? Yes, they are same because whether you're doing matters for accepting audit or non-audit, you typically go with those competence, ethical issues, resources, fees, deadlines. Yes. Uh, you can think about assurance level as a more specific matters for due diligence, sustainability, forensic, which we never consider in case of audit, liability of the auditor, intended users. I think more or less it's the same, Emily. So that's perfectly fine understanding. Okay, another question from Ahad. So there was an unexpected current issue of SBR, which is crowdfunding. Okay, crowdfunding, sorry, was tested in AAA in December 23. What are your thoughts on it? I think that was more specific to the case study, Ahad. That was not out of the case study, and it was very well explained in the case. So even if a student was unprepared for it, it was very well explained in the case for the student to get guidance on that. So I would not consider that as something out of the way by the examining team, because if that was given in the paper, that was given with a lot of clarity in the case scenario. Arita, could you please advise on a couple of areas to be looked at in block 1, 2, and 4 to skim through in the last 24 hours? I think for the block 4, it's about assurance on sustainability information. The new article and the previous articles on assurance on sustainability, environmental sustainability information, part 1, part 2. In block 1, you can look into money laundering, you can look into auditor liability, you can look into professional skepticism and opening balances. And in the block 2, definitely it's about practice management and quality management. So both are very, very important. Okay. Another one from a Facebook user, no name, sir. A bit about reporting question, a clarity on material and pervasive. See, I don't know your name, but some the materiality thresholds, right? So mostly we conclude on the materiality by taking the look at the threshold, but when the percentage is very higher, like 60-70%, you find something is 70% of the profit, or something is 65 to 70% of the profit, then that could be considered as pervasive alone, because it's bringing a huge impact on the profitability for the shareholders. So anything less than 65-70% is still considered material, or individually, if it is like 65-70 alone, then you can think it's pervasive. But otherwise than that, all is dealt as material only. Sir, agreed upon procedures for PFI. I could not get your question, Hamna, because PFI is a moderate assurance engagement, right? PFI is not an agreed upon procedure. The agreed upon procedure is a forensic engagement. Okay, Alison is asking a question. How would data analytics be tested, and the best way to answer? again, benefits of data analytics or how data analytics can be used in audit procedures. Because I think how data analytics could be used in audit procedure has been very well covered by the examining team in the article on data analytics. And I've even covered that on my YouTube video as well. So procedures can be linked to data analytics, or generally the benefits or how you can bring efficiency to the process of the audit through the use of data analytics. So I think some sort of those relevance can still be important. Okay, another question from Elvin. Sir, which exactly professional marks give us a problem if every student gets 7? Because we need these double figures. Yes, Elvin, you definitely need these double figures. And I'll just be coming to the last scan of professional marks at the end of my session. So just wait for that. Okay, a question from Akbar. Sir, in PFI, significant assumption issues and preclude on some procedures a final impact on report. Yes, if a significant assumption is wrong in a PFI, so you need to give a qualified opinion. You need to say, in our opinion, except for this particular assumption, everything else is fine, or every other assumption is fine. So you need to exclude that assumption when you're giving an opinion, and you need to tell the intended users that this particular assumption we have a strong reservation on. There is a question from Ishika. So could you please clarify the rules of engagement partner being rotated after every 7 years? Yes, definitely. The engagement partner needs to be rotated after every 7 years, but in extraordinary circumstances, for example, the other partner is not available, or the partner you want to replace with is not available, uh, so that in emergency circumstances, you can extend the rule with 2 years. So it will become 7 plus 2. But otherwise, the partner has to be rotated after every 7 years. In extraordinary circumstances, which could be defined in the case study, it could be 7 plus 2. So the partner will then be rotated after 9 years. But in ordinary circumstances, the partner can never be replaced after 9 years. It must be after 7 years. I hope you're clear on that, uh, Ishika. Priyanka is saying thank you. You are welcome. Brooke is having a question. Is that possible to grab professional marks but lose technical marks? Like if in the risk if you miss the standard part? Yes, definitely. You score professional marks differently and technical marks differently. So definitely you can lose on a technical mark, but your approach, your tone, your professionalism, your attitude of skepticism uh, is liked by the marker, and he gives you one professional mark, but he doesn't give you the technical mark. Okay, Asad Siddiqui saying Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. Then there is a question from Hetvi again. So in AAA, if the answer is correct, then for technical marks, is there a possibility to score full marks? Yes, particularly procedures, you can score full marks on that. Rest of the areas are very subjective. Actions, procedures, evidence, these are areas where you can potentially score full marks. Imagine students who get place winners like Hetvi scoring 80, 81, 82 in AAA. So that means in certain areas they must have scored full. Okay, a question from Asad asking, Sir, in a group audit, how do we determine whether our firm is only audit firm or is there any other component auditor? That is mentioned by the examiner. The examiner will tell you in the case of the group audit that this subsidiary is audited by another auditor. Normally, the examiner tells you the exception. He will tell you you are the auditor of the group, and he will tell you there is a foreign subsidiary which is audited by XYZ company. This is very common, right? Asad, I don't know. Have you captured that statement? In every group audit situation, 90% of the time, the examiner tells you this: there is one subsidiary which is audited by another auditor. If the examiner is not telling that statement, then we assume that whole group is with us. And at times, even the examiner tells you that all subsidiaries are audited by the same auditor. So you need to read the statement of the examiner very carefully, Asad. Okay, so please share the tips for the last 24 hours before exam. Shakshi, I'll just be coming to that in next 10 minutes. The tips for the last 24 hours. So I'll be just be covering that. I'll be covering professional marks because that's been a question from the students. So I just noted it down, and I'll be taking that in the last 10 minutes of the session today. Okay. A question from Akbar. So, in question one, if a company is listed, it will be mentioned it is listed. Otherwise, we assume it is to be non-listed. Yes, definitely. If the question is silent, we assume it is non-listed. Otherwise, examiner will specifically mention it is a listed company. Okay, next. Sir, how much we need to score in order to get a monetary reward from you? Okay, to get a monetary reward from me or to get a certificate of appreciation from my side, Omer, you need to score the worldwide position right in AAA. So if you score a worldwide position, if you have paid a fees to me, your fees will be reimbursed. This is a policy which is applicable not from a retrospective effect, but from a prospective effect. Okay, another question from Imran Makbul. What is the benchmark that we can consider in respect of a significant component? Can we use the 15% or above? Yes, yes, yes. You can use the 15% threshold to identify whether the component is material or not, or significant or not. That is perfectly fine. But there could be other qualitative factors like it's a new component, there are some risk in the component, there are some problems with the component that can also make the component very special. So on the quantitative side, whether it is significant, 15% threshold, Imran is perfectly fine. But if uh, the amounts are not given in the exam paper, you need to look into the component significance by virtue of the qualitative factors as guided in the revised ISA 600, which I've already covered for my regular students. Fakhar, is there any current issue for March other than ISSA 5000? No, there is only ISSA 5000, but please, on the safe side, do watch my video on climate risk, which I covered since September 22 exam, and please ensure that you don't ignore data analytics. Data analytics, climatical risk, and the ISSA 5000. These are three important things. I'll be floating them again in my WhatsApp group and over the social media in the next few hours after the session comes to an end. Please note that down carefully. Okay, another question from Neha. So, if you're supposed to write five business risks, and I find it all the five in Exhibit 2 and 3, and I didn't take any risk from Exhibit 4. Will I lose marks? If the examining team is saying use all exhibits to evaluate business risk, then you will lose the professional mark, not the technical marks. But if the question is not saying use all exhibits and it just says evaluate the business risk, and you just found it from the two exhibits and you didn't bother about finding it from the fourth one, you will not be losing the professional marks. I hope you're clear on that, Neha. Okay, Brooke, on the first 10 to 15 minutes reading time before the exam commences, what we should do? I don't consider that as an equation, Brooke. I normally say you have 195 minutes in the exam. So I take that 15 minutes into my whole time management, 195 minutes. From that 195 minutes, you have 98 minutes for question number one and 47 minutes each for question two and three. Now, in that 98 minutes you have for question number one, Brooke, you have 24 of minutes of reading and planning time for the question one, in which you read the requirements, in which you read the partner email, then you read the exhibits, and then you prepare yourself for writing the answer in the later 74 minutes. So, no extra, not utilizing 10 to 15 minutes as extra time for reading and planning, but use 195 minutes as a whole divided by 100 marks. It's 1.95 minutes per mark. And then you find the time management for question number one, question number two, and question number three, which I've been guiding so many times. Okay, a Facebook user is asking me if in a question it is not mentioned whether it's a recurring client or a new client, we consider it is as recurring. If the question is silent, we consider it is as recurring. Okay, another question from Akbar. So if it has been asked for specifically for inquiries, procedures on something, we need to stick to only discuss. Like, yes, if the question normally in due diligence has happened, Akbar, that examiner asks you specific inquiries, then you have to stick to inquire or discuss as your action terms. Very clear on that. Okay, Imran Makbul is saying, thank you, sir. You are welcome. Muhammad Ramis is asking, sir, what should be discussed in an answer when there is a component auditor? There would be a separate requirement for component auditor. Examiner can ask you to justify whether the component auditor is uh, can you rely on the work of component auditor? We know knowledge questions to come on using the work of others. So, and we have seen a couple of time in the past papers in using the work of other, reliance on the work of a component auditor. So, looking at the independence, competence, experience, and documentation criteria of the component auditor under the ISA 620, sorry, ISA 600, which is about group audit, is something you can be asked for. Nosheen, if any student fails to understand my answer or you didn't get the reply you were looking for, you can just rephrase your question and put back that to me again. Else you can just mention thank you, sir. So I know you have been addressed. Nosheen is asking a question. Um, Please explain about support letters which are given by parent company to subsidiary. Okay, in absence to this will cast doubt on the going concern issue. Yes, the letter of support from the parent is very important. If any subsidiary, if any component is facing any going concern problems, uh, but there is a letter of support from the parent management. Now, that letter of support is very important because that letter of support means that the subsidiary will not close down, but the material uncertainty will still exist. If there is no letter, Nosheen, then that means there will be a liquidation of the subsidiary or the subsidiary will close down. But if there is a letter of support, Nosheen, then that means uh, there is still a material uncertainty, but it has been mitigated substantially through a letter of support. So no liquidation, but the MU will still exist. So if you are a subsidiary auditor, you will ensure that the management is giving a disclosure of a material uncertainty relating to a going concern. And in that disclosure of material uncertainty relating to a going concern, the management of the subsidiary has mentioned about the letter of support you have got from the uh, parent management. I hope you're clear on that, Nosheen. Okay, Munib, what are the non-audit that are prohibited for listed entities even with safeguard? Preparing financial statements, that's the only one. Christy, sir, can you give a rough idea about the other information section in the audit report? Yes, the other information section in the audit report, Christy, is a standard section uh, which cannot be deleted. And in the other information section, we do tell about the management responsibility for other information and the auditor responsibility for the other information. And the auditor do mention that whether he has found any material inconsistency in the other information or he has found nothing. So it has to be in both cases. So that's how you structure this paragraph. And this paragraph has nothing to do with the audit opinion, right? Imran, so we can adapt policy of 2 plus 2 plus 1 from exhibit 2, 3, 4 for business risk. Yes, Imran, if the question says evaluate business risk using all exhibits, so you can try picking business risk from each exhibit so that you can fetch your professional marks. Okay, Hamza, what's the strategy for next 12 hours? Focus on IAASA 5000, focus on data analytics, YouTube video, focus on climatical risk YouTube video, and just go brush over the mock exam. Just read through it, just read through its answer, just try to make yourself familiar with what sort of things the examiner do in the answer. Okay, what's the difference between procedure and examination procedure, Mirshad? Both are same, right? Both are same. Principal audit procedures, procedures, examination procedures, they're all the same. What's the sequence for the exam? One, two, three. Section A first, section B after. Long question from Alvin. Sir, emphasize on analytical procedure in a risk question. Is there a probability to get all marks if you compare, for example, increase in a profit compared to revenue, or maybe you can use an analytical procedure risk if something has been mentioned? If the question is specifically asking for utilizing the analytical procedure, Elvin, then you know there are 5 marks for it, and you do it differently, just like in the September 18 question number 1. But if the question is not specifically asking for analytical procedure, Elwin, and there is a financial data given, and from that financial data, you find a ratio and you commented on that ratio, you calculated the ratio, and you try to identify what is the risk in that ratio, and you found the under and overstatement, then for that you will score 2 marks for that well addressed ratio, uh, and well addressed ratio in terms of identifying a risk. So please do look at the September 18 question number 1, where it was specifically asked for utilizing the AP. In that case, you need to make 5 ratios with comparison, and for each ratio, you need to tell what is the risk underlying it, and you get 5 marks for that. But otherwise than that, you can just utilize the financial information. You can identify any risk from the financial information through a trend analysis or through a ratio analysis, and you can then translate that into a risk for 2 marks. I hope you're clear on that, Elwin. Okay, Brooke is saying thank you, sir. You're welcome, Brooke. Wish you all the best. Akbar is saying thank you, sir. It's all clear. You're welcome, Akbar, and wish you success. There is a question from Elwin. My question is, how can you come out with a risk from analytical procedure? See, by comparison, there could be an unusual rise, which you can relate with an overstatement, or an unusual fall, which you can relate with an understatement, or you can identify the receivable collection period. You can develop a ratio, and if the receivable collection period is rising, you can be skeptical, saying that it could be that the debtors are struggling to pay on time and the management has not recorded adequate provision. Receivables could be overstated. So that's how you can investigate numbers or analytical procedures from a skeptical mindset. Okay, is it necessary to number name? No, no, no. Shakshi, there is no marks for naming the standard or giving reference to the standard. Salma is asking a question. So, where there is a materiality paragraph placed in a business risk ROM question at the start of the question or at the start of the ROM part? At the start of the ROM part, Salma. Okay, Neha, can you please share important accounting standards to be looked into the last minutes? You know, there are quite a repetitive accounting standards which comes in the AAA paper, like IFRS 15 revenue recognition, leases is very common, operating segments, IFRS 8 is very common, business combination, IFRS 3, IFRS 2, share-based payment. These are very common standards, right? Then IS 36, IS 37, IS 38 is very repetitive, IS 20 is very repetitive, IS 16 is very repetitive, property, plant, and equipment. ICE 21, ICE 24, ICE 8. ICE 8 is coming a lot in recent years, right? So do focus on ICE 8 as well. So these are more common phenomena as you need to look into, Neha. Okay, so can you name a few important IAS and IFRS? Hetvi, I hope you heard my reply to the previous student, Neha. I hope you're fine with that. Okay, I'll be putting that on my social media as well. Important list of IAS and IFRS today in the next couple of hours. I've just noted it down. Okay, Ibrahim Khan, what are specific cases where we can add EOMP in the report for a listed company? Uh, in listed company report, uh, you can only add an emphasis of a matter paragraph when the company is not a going concern, and the financial statements are prepared on a breakup basis, and that is adequately disclosed in the notes to the account. If the company is not a going concern, financial statements are prepared on a breakup basis, and that's adequately disclosed by the management. Then only you add an EOMP for the listed entity. Okay, Imran, sir, I'm always confused about the 15 minutes extra reading time. How can we use it? No, 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 Imran, I'm saying 195 minutes. So you club every minute together. You have total time of 195 minutes in the exam. Divide that by 100. You have 1.95 minutes per mark. Or on that basis, you have 98 minutes for question number 1, 47 minutes for question 2, and 47 minutes for question 3. And in that 98 minutes for question number 1, you have 24 minutes to read and 74 minutes to write. Because 1/4 of the time is to read, 3/4 of the time is to write. Okay, Paul, for audit risk question. Paul, what for audit risk question? Your question seems a bit incomplete. Okay, about marking, business risk is 2, perfectly right, Brooke. ROM is 3, audit risk is 3, very well said. The marking scheme is correct, Brooke. Thank you, sir. Imran is saying you're welcome. Okay, there's a question from Archie. Can you please explain how to approach due diligence question? Archie, you need to look into the requirements because if you've seen the prior papers, mostly the questions around due diligence focus on procedures, specific inquiries, or additional information, or matters. Matters you should consider as an auditor when you are approaching the due diligence. You must have seen question from December 17 paper or I think December 13 paper, so I hope you're clear with those requirements which comes on the due diligence. Or if you are struggling with any specific requirement, just to ask me that in the next question. So when should we use materiality uncertainty? Okay, you use the material uncertainty relating to going concern, Christy, when the disclosure has been made for MURGC. So if the company is facing material uncertainty relating to going concern and the disclosure has been given, then only you use this paragraph in the audit report. Otherwise, you issue a qualified opinion or an adverse opinion, as the case may be. Okay. Sir, can you say in which of your webinar did you solve the March mock? I did mention that on my social media as well. It was the September 22 webinars because the mock for March 24 is same as September 22 mock. Okay, Imran, how to handle procedure if examiner specifically confined to a particular financial statement assertion? Again, the case study, Imran. You need to look into the case study. You need to see what is in the case study around valuation or around existence or around classification. And you need to focus your procedures on that particular element from the case study. Elvin, thank you, sir. All clear. Now we will do our best. Yes, Elvin, wish you all the best for your exams tomorrow. Eswin is asking a question. So, in an ethics question, if the management has asked us to provide an extra service, then fees on that service should be separate, right? Yes, it is separate. But when we say fees from our client should not exceed 15% of the total income of the firm. So we take the total fees from the client, the audit and the non-audit, for that 15% threshold. But yes, a fees for audit is charged separately, a fees for non-audit is charged separately. Okay, Khushi is saying thank you, sir. You're welcome. Wish you success. Neha is saying thank you, sir. Wish you success, Neha. Hetvi is saying thank you, sir. Wish you success. Imran is saying clear, perfect. Thank you, Imran, and wish you success. Umair is saying EOMP in a non-listed company audit report will modify the audit report. Yes, it will modify the audit report because you are adding this paragraph. So any paragraph added to the report which is not part of the standard report, Omer, will modify the audit report. A lot of time the student gets confused between modifying an opinion and modifying a report. They're both different things, right? Aswin, in question one, I take a little more time in reading the requirement. Is that right? 24 minutes you have for the total time management, total reading time in question one, Aswin. So 24 minutes can become 25, but should not be more than that because you're compromising your writing time then. Okay. There is a question from Neha. So, when giving conclusion for AR or ROM, if there is a related party, then does this come before other quantitative thresholds? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I would still prefer that quantitative thresholds become are quantitative thresholds should be written before the qualitative thresholds. So can we expect a critical appraisal of report in this attempt? I did mention that in my tips, Sayyid Ahmed Pasha Qadri. I hope you've watched them on my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. Christy is saying, thank you, sir. You are welcome. Okay, another question from Archie. Sir, I'm facing difficulty in explaining the due diligence matters identified. Is there any question which can help me understand them better? December 17, Archie, the Zebra company, I hope, and the December 13 question, the Baltimore company. You can investigate these two questions for matters. Aruba is asking, sir, in examiner answers, they mostly didn't mention the exact opinion, how we should approach it. No, you should specify an opinion in exam, Aruba. Examining team, when you read the examiner reports, examiner is very critical that the student does not specify a opinion. So you need to specify a opinion in that case, Aruba. Okay, Aritha is saying thank you, sir. You are welcome and wish you success. Paul is asking you a question for audit risk question. For setting materiality, for example, if I set 7.5 or 8.5% of profit before tax or 1.5% of asset, is this wrong? No, not at all. That is what examiner is looking for. The justification, your choice of materiality. So you can choose any percentage within the range of materiality for that particular factor, and you're perfectly right. I just put some tips on that, Paul, on my LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta yesterday. I hope you've watched those tips on determination of materiality I posted yesterday. Okay, Aretha is saying, thank you, sir, for your help. You are welcome, Aretha. There is another question from Archana. If there is a question we do not know how to answer, how should we get easy marks? First of all, if you don't know that question, leave it and move on. And suppose that question is worth 10 marks. So that means you need to do it in 19 minutes, 1 9. Leave it, go ahead, do the rest of the paper. Come back in the last 19 minutes of your exam time, read that question again, and try to do your best within that 19 minutes. At least write something which is from the case study, connected to the case study. At least if it is a 10 marks question, instead of scoring 0, you can score 3, 4. That's better. I hope you're clear on that, Archana. Okay, Hetvi. So for the question, challenge the assumption and completeness of the assumptions, how to approach. You need to be skeptical, Hetwi. You need to see what is wrong in the assumptions of the management. If they are making a profit forecast, keep in mind that income are overstated and expenses are understated. That is the risk of the management bias. Keep that at the back of your mind. If it is a cash flow forecast, the cash inflows are overstated, the cash outflows are understated. Keep that at the back of the mind. And that will really help you investigate the assumptions of the management, because mostly the management makes very optimistic assumptions about cash inflows and very pessimistic assumptions about cash outflows. Same goes with profit forecast. They make very optimistic assumptions about income, they make very pessimistic assumptions about expenses. So that's how you can think about assumptions in exam paper. Okay, Brooke is saying thank you. Esfer is saying thank you. Umer is saying I took 102 to 105 minutes in solving question number 1. Not bad. 98 minutes. If that's going to 102, fine. But 102, 105 is quite fine, but should not be more than that. Okay, Archie is saying thank you. Imran is saying, can I use average of upper and lower threshold of materiality standard for my answer? It depends. If it is a first year audit, then you use the lower threshold of materialities for revenue, profit, and total assets. But if it is a recurring audit, then you can gradually rise your threshold above, and you can take a percentage in between the highs and lows. Okay, Sayed Ahmed Pasha is saying thank you. Arjuna is saying thank you. There's a question from Mehdi. Good morning, sir, and thank you for your help. Should I mark my mock using the 2008 exam answer? 2008 exam answer? If that is from the same 2008 paper, then definitely you can. Archana is saying thank you. Ahad is saying in certain cases we can have a diplomatic opinion where the judgment is required, such as qualitative significance. So we can say if it is material, yes, yes, yes. If the question is silent and the question is not telling you whether a disclosure has been made or not, so you say if disclosure made, we give you MURGC. If disclosure not made, we'll give you a qualified opinion. So in certain cases you can be diplomatic, Ahad. Okay. I'm not taking any further questions. I just want to discuss few very important things from with all of you before we get to the wind up stage of this. I'll be posting some very important tips in the next 1 hour about what to do in the last 12 hours, because students were looking for that desperately. Uh, and even the important list of IES and IFRS. Some student asked me about the professional marks, which I should do now. So to me, uh, for tomorrow, when your AAA exams, March 24, are just 24 hours away when I'm conducting this social media live session. And the purpose of this session was to take your Q&As and share my thoughts with you on your Q questions. I hope you are satisfied with that. Time management holds the key tomorrow. I have been guiding you on time management. I've been very vocal on the time management techniques. I hope you will stick to that tomorrow. You know, there is 98 minutes for the question number one, out of which 24 minutes is to read and plan, and 74 minutes is to write. For question two and question three, for each, you have 47 minutes. Out of that 47, you have 12 minutes to read and plan and 35 minutes to write. I hope you do excellence in that area. Don't overrun time. Each question has a time. Do the best within that. Wherever the time gets up, stop and move on, because there are opportunities awaiting you in the next question. That is my important message to all of you. Next, case specific is the key to success. I've been very vocal on that, and I've focused on that in my regular courses as well and on my social media interaction as well, that it's about case connectivity, which will help you pass the AAA. If you're writing generic things, bookish things, and you're just padding up your answer. Padding up means you're just filling up your answer with unnecessary information just to make yourself happy that I've written so much. No. If you want to make your marker happy, then your answer has to be case specific. If you have extracted information from the case, you have developed information from the case, and you have linked the requirement of the question very well with the case study, you're passing the AAA paper. But if you are making yourself happy, padding up your answer with unnecessary information, generic information, bookish knowledge, no use, right? You're just making yourself happy, but you're making your marker unhappy. Then next important thing is the depth. To me, is important to excel. A lot of times the students are not developing audit risk very well, or business risk very well, or the reporting implication very well. You try to write too less. Each well-developed audit risk should be 4 to 5 sentences long. Each well-developed business risk should be 3 to 4 sentences long. When you're writing a reporting implication, as if a lot of students says it is material, hence a qualified opinion. That is not depth. You need to tell about the issue. You need to tell what is the problem. You need to tell about that the auditor will issue a qualified opinion. Then you need to tell that the qualified opinion will result in a modified report. You need to tell that the auditor will also put a basis of a qualified opinion paragraph where the auditor will justify the reason of giving a qualified opinion. So at least elaborate on something. So at times students tend to write a bit too short answer. The depth is missing. So ensure you focus on the depth, which is like very important. Yes, definitely. This has been the focal discussion today, IAAA 5000 ED. I've covered this for my regular students who are enrolled with me. We have done a session on that. I've even given guidance to my students about the type of question you can do around IAAA 5000. But if you are not my registered student, you're following me on social media, and you've not taken classes from me, at least you know this article is important and you have to read this article, because I did disseminated that information to all of you. And the lastly thing where things are important is professional marks. Now be very careful. You have 20 marks to grab, 20 professional marks to grab. Of those 20, you have 3 communication skill marks, which is in the question number 1. I hope you're listening to me very carefully, right? You have 20 professional marks, of which 3 are communication skill marks in question number 1. Now, 3 communication skill marks are very easy to grab. You put the briefing note very well, uh, to, from, date, subject, introduction, A requirement, B requirement, C requirement, D requirement. Where you need to put the materiality paragraph, put it. Where you need to put the conclusion, put it. And adhere to the instruction of the partner in the email. If the partner is saying do something, do it. If the partner is saying don't do something, don't do it. If the partner is saying evaluate a business risk or an audit risk using all exhibits, then use all exhibits. If the examiner is saying do not use this exhibit, then don't use that exhibit. So adhering to that instructions. That is how you can fetch your 3 professional skill marks around communication. Now, how many marks are you left with? 17. Now, of this 17 marks, you need to ensure you're writing a case specific answer. You are adapting yourself to the case. You're writing actions which are relevant to the case. You're writing safeguards which are relevant to the case. You're writing procedures which are relevant to the case. You are alert to the underlying risk of management bias in question number 1, 2, and 3. Wherever there is a risk of management bias and you investigate that, be skeptical, uh, develop a point around risk of management bias. Please ensure when you're writing impact of a business risk. You have a clear impact of a business risk on the business objective. For every audit risk and ROM, please ensure you comment on the materiality of that audit risk and ROM, and you do identify what is under and overstated because that will add to professionalism. Do exercise sound judgments around whether to issue a qualified opinion or an adverse opinion. Do exercise sound judgments around calculating anything, uh, uh, commenting on something like whether this is material or material and pervasive, because that will excel your professional marks. Your judgment, risk of management bias, being skeptical, because whatever the management do is management do it wrong. So be critical of the management opinions, be critical of the management statements, investigate management opinions and management statements with a skeptical approach. Um, Link everything to the case study, and that is how you can excel most of your 20 professional marks, of which 3 are communication skill marks. And I'll be putting a very important message on professional skill marks shortly on my social media. Please do follow that as well on the professional marks, right? I hope you would be clear on that. Okay, so just let's scan down to some of the last moment questions if there are any. Okay. There's a question from Paul for business risk question. Could you please could you guide me the part that how to write the scale of risk in the answer? There is no need to write the scale of risk in business risk, right? So we are not evaluating the scale of a business risk, but don't write a business risk in your answer for which the management has already taken a mitigating action. Brooke is asking a question: what if we find material misstatement which is quite clear? Should we adjust our base for materiality? No. Even if you don't adjust it, that's not a problem in the exam time management. So I would prefer don't waste time on it. Okay. Aditya, so if materiality is not given in section B or C questions, then should we use, yes, you will use the No, 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 Aditya, if materiality is not given in section in question B and question 2 and 3, then you do the typical materiality calculations, right? That is, you take it, identify the problem and you divide the problem with revenue, you divide the problem with profit, or you divide the problem with total asset and see how much percentage is that. So typical ways to calculate materiality, Aditya, uh, because in the question number 1, we have a different approach to materiality. We follow the instruction of the partner. But in question 2 and 3, you still have those traditional ways of materiality where you pick up the problem and divide the problem with the thresholds and see is it exceeding the threshold or is it material or not. I hope you're clear on that, Aditya. Okay. Vardha, in what order should we attempt our paper? Section A first, section B after. In section B, you can do 3, 2, 2, 3, whatever. Okay, Salma is saying thank you, you're welcome. And then there is a question from Meyenk. Sir, how do we write ROM related to new audit client and also the risk of management bias? ROM relating to a new audit client is opening balances, right? There could be a potential misstatement in the opening balances, or the management have carried forward the opening balances wrongly. They could have done any misstatement in the opening balances to window dress the financial statements. That's how you can write ROM for the new audit client. And risk of management bias has to be linked with something in the case study. There could be like bonuses of the directors. There could be the company is listed. There could be a factor which is creating a risk of management bias. Otherwise, than that, you cannot write it. Okay, so can you repeat the point in materiality question for section B? It's the same way we used to do the materiality in section B always. The change of materiality is only in the question number one, right? When you request to use profitability, is it acceptable to base materiality on revenue as it is low, or do I need to use it on the use the overall materiality? If the partner is saying determine the materiality on the profitability basis, then you have to determine it on the basis of the PBT, Medi. So, following on Aditya question on materiality, do you have to provide an explanation? No, 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 no. You need not to provide the explanation of materiality in question number two and three. It's only in the question number one. Okay. Okay. I am not taking any further questions. This is the last one I'm taking. So, risk of management bias, like for showing good results or getting finance, can be written as an inherent risk, specifically for items requiring management judgment. Yes, yes, yes. You are perfectly right. You're perfectly right on that. Uh, Audit procedures should meet assertions, not necessarily. Every audit procedure should have a purpose, which is linked to the case study. Further, the placement of the materiality paragraph. You need to place the materiality paragraph before starting to write the audit risk or ROM answer. Section B materiality is the same as it has always been for the last many years. There is no change in the way you approach the section B materiality. It's always been the same. The only change which has come was in the section A materiality. That's from the September 22 exams. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, all of you, for taking your time out and coming into this Q&A session with your AAA March exams just 24 hours away. I'll be posting some very vital tips on my LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and even in my WhatsApp group for my regular students in the next 2 to 3 hours from now. So please stay tuned for that. And I wish you all a very best of luck for your upcoming exams tomorrow. I hope you will excel this time. And again, please ensure the case connectivity and the depth of your well developed point holds the key for your success. So please ensure you follow that strictly tomorrow. Thank you all for taking your time out and coming to the session today. And my regular students, if you still have any further questions, you have the WhatsApp group where I am with you till tonight, 12 midnight. So you can ask any questions, any problems, and I'll try my best to expedite that. Or else any other student can answer it, and I'll just agree with that student that he has given the right answer. So, wish you all the very best of luck. Thank you so much for coming in and joining this session. Take care. Wish you success. Goodbye, and Allah Hafiz from your tutor, Kashif Kamran.